Hey guys, so today I'm going to take you guys along with me. I've had a few people ask. I think this is something that everyone wonders, and I know it was something that I was curious about when stepping up to a circular saw processor like this, one with one of these, slasher blades on it. Kind of curious to know what the process is. Do you have to sharpen that blade? Do you, how do you service the blade? How often do you have to do anything to the blade? All the videos that you just see them cutting through wood like it's just not even there. And I'll be honest, that is a reality. I mean, this thing cuts through wood so well, so fast, and you just almost have to never service it at all. I mean, but the one thing that you do have to do occasionally, I think it's primarily due to hitting metal and wood and things like that, which is just going to happen when you're dealing with firewood logs. We don't get the best, most perfect wood, and I'm definitely not putting a metal detector on everything to see, see if there's any metal in it. I mean, you can obviously see staining in some wood sometimes, and you kind of know just to be careful. And occasionally you'll see a piece of metal on the outside of the wood, but not all the time. But I just wanted to take you guys along today. I want to show you guys the process in detail of how I replace the teeth. So the whole shank will come out of the blade itself. I'll get up there a little bit closer, kind of show you what I mean, so you guys can see this entire piece right here is removable. It's not that easy to remove, and I'll take you along with the process. I'll show you kind of the tools that I use to do it. They do get kind of stuck in there. I don't know if you can see, but the residue from the wood and whatever else, kind of rusts these things in a little bit, and so they're tough to get out. It's not like, there is a rivet right here, and the way that I do it is I just grind this flat, flush with the blade, to where then that rivet can be punched out with a special tool that we actually purchased through Easton Made. Not sure where you can. I know you can get this tool online. I'll show you what it looks like. I'm not sure of the exact name of the tool, unfortunately, but I'm going to show you a layout of the tools that I use. And the first thing in the process, I get the saw at a good working height to where I can, be right here is where I'll be sitting working on this, or standing over there on the splitter trough. First thing I'll do though is just kind of inspect the blade, and I know I'm missing at least one tooth. Right here though, in this visible section of the blade, there are no teeth missing. Spin it around. Yep, I'm missing one right here for sure, and that could be the only one. It's right here. Let me show you what that looks like. So the carbide tip is completely off that tooth right there. You can see it compared to the tooth next to it, and I never sharpen these. You can see this one's a little bit damaged. I never do sharpen these. We just wait for those carbide teeth to fall off, and then that's when we service it. And usually I would wait till several of them are off. Like, having one tooth off like that does not affect the quality of the cut. You have to be missing quite a few of them, and then the blade will sometimes get a little bit out of balance, and you'll be able to feel a little vibration if that happens. That may be the only one we're missing, and in that case, I'll be able to show you just replacing that one. I'm not going to replace that one that's just slightly damaged. I mean, they're all not as sharp as they could be. You could go through and spend a lot of time sharpening these, but it doesn't seem to affect the performance very much, if at all. The fact that they are not as sharp as a brand new one. So I think that may be the only one we're missing. The blade just kind of wants to settle in a certain spot, so I'm gonna try to get that one where it's on the bottom for me, so it's easiest to work on. All right, that's perfect right there. So that's the tooth we're gonna be working on. So I'll show you guys the tools that I'm gonna use to get this out with, and show you the process, take you guys along and see if we can learn something here. So this is something that I have not been able to find a whole lot of information on online and through videos. So hopefully this can help a lot of you guys visualize the process and the maintenance involved in one of these blades. But like I say, it's super minimal, especially in comparison to you know, a bar and chain processor. You know, bar and chain processor, we had one for a while, and we were always fighting that chain. I mean, it's just, you know, you hit one little thing and you're gonna have to swap or sharpen the chain. And we had several chains, you know, to where we could swap it pretty quick, and we had a lot of chains. And then we also had a bench chain grinder, Oregon, that we would put to use a lot. That way we didn't have to service the chain with it on the bar, and you know, have downtime with the processor. But this thing here, it's like almost no downtime as far as, you know, I don't need to do this tooth right now, but I figure while the processor's in the shop, this is how I do it. I'm gonna show you guys the tools that I'm gonna be using. So I've got everything laid out right here on the table. So first thing I do is I use the grinder to grind that rivet flush to the saw, like I was talking about. And then you use this tool right here to punch that rivet out. So this is something that, you know, I got through Easton Made. Not sure the name of it. I know that you can probably get these online somewhere. And this bolt here, I've had to replace. The factory one kind of just, this is what punches that rivet through the hole. I don't know if you can see that there, but there's a hole right here for the rivet to go out, and this bolt right here drives that rivet out. So that will get the rivet out, and then this end will crimp the new rivet in once you put the new tooth in, and then put one of these rivets in. So here's what these rivets look like, just right like that. So it's just flat on that end, and then this will go in there, and that will just kind of mushroom the other side of it. So it goes through the tooth, and that just mushrooms it in there, and that's what holds these teeth in. Before you do that, you have to remove the tooth entirely, and that's what this is for. This is just a hammer drill that we put in hammer mode on. It's like a small SDS, really, is what this is. Not a hammer drill, but a SDS. And I'll use, primarily I think I use, if I remember right, just this one. I might use that one a little bit as well, but to drive that tooth out, because like I say, it kind of gets hung in there with all the different sap and rust and whatever's caused there on the blade to really bind that tooth to the blade. It really doesn't want to come out, so I do use lubricant sometimes to help. I'll just kind of let that set on that for a minute, and that helps. One thing I don't have here shown, but I need to get an impact with, I believe it's a 3/4 inch socket to use to tighten these. And you may notice I've reinforced this tool here. We had problems, this thing bent apart on us, so we heated it, straightened it back out, and then I just reinforced it just with some rebar I had laying around at the shop, and that, it seems like now it's sturdy enough to last. The other side here doesn't take as much force to punch that rivet out, but this one here, to mushroom that rivet, takes a good bit of force. So this part here, it just wanted to work its way apart as we mushroomed that. So that was a necessary repair. And then I definitely always have hearing protection for when I'm hammering that tooth out, because the vibration on that blade, that metal to metal banging, makes quite a racket, especially here inside the shop. And you'd be left with your ears ringing for sure without some hearing protection. Yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of what you need to do this process, or at least to make it easiest. You could certainly do this with less advanced tools, with a hammer and a chisel, and you know, and take this out of the equation, but the other stuff is kind of a necessity. And then, like I said, I just got to get that impact with that 3/4 inch socket to take care of this. All right, guys, so I'm up here with all my tools now. I'm gonna go ahead and first thing I'll do is just grind this flat right here, and then we'll be punching the rivet out that way. All right, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but you can see how it's just kind of flush there with the metal. And you know, I don't want to dig into the blade or anything, don't want to go too crazy with it, but that should be ready to punch out right there. So like I said previously, this is what is used to punch it out, and you just want to line that bolt up right there. And this bolt, it's tapered. I had to do this myself, but you can see in there the bolt is tapered to where it will fit into this hole on the opposite side, punching that rivet out as you tighten the bolt. You gotta get it lined up right here where you want it, just finger tight. And then we'll get the impact on it. And that should be where we need it right there. All right, so it didn't quite get it all the way out, but I'm just gonna finish that out. I hate messing my bolt up here. This is something that I just made, and I probably need a harder bolt. I think it's a grade 5 bolt. And it just it messes the end of the bolt up pretty quickly if you go too aggressive with it. So I'm just gonna switch to my chisel and just punch that out with my chisel. Yep, that's all it took just to get that out there. So now the next step, you can see how this, that's what holds the tooth in place there. And then when that rivet is mashed together, it can't move, that tooth can't move. And then, like I say, it gets bound in there with everything else that gets in this groove. You can see how this tooth is shaped here. So once once we take that out, you'll be able to see how that fits up in there. And you just give it a little tap. I didn't bring a hammer up here with me, but I'll get a hammer, and sometimes you have to kind of tap on this one, get it up there flush, and then get that rivet in place. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on this, a little bit of WD-40, just to help a little bit, hopefully. And sometimes I've had to put penetrating oil on it and let it sit. I'll do that on both sides. Had to put penetrating oil on it and let it sit for a little while, and then come back at it. If I'm doing several teeth, I'll sometimes just get them all to this stage and put oil on them and let them sit. But I'll go ahead and try to get this thing vibrated loose. The vibration of the power hammer certainly helps. Trying to drive this out with a hammer and a chisel would be extremely difficult. I believe that's the way we tried to do it initially, not knowing the best way, but hopefully this video helps people understand what tool makes it as easy as it can be. I'm probably gonna go ahead and get on the other side of the blade to do this, but you guys will be able to see it come out as long as it comes free. Well, that is the least trouble I've ever had doing that. So don't get your hopes up if you're doing this yourself. That's rare, but I'll go get a hammer right now, drive that up, we'll get a new rivet in there, and then I'll show you how we mash that rivet together. So before I put the tooth in there, I want to show you guys how it's shaped, how the blade is shaped right there to accept the tooth. So that's how it's designed, and that's how the shank works, and it's pretty simple, but a great design. Makes it very easy to service. But like I say, they don't all come out that easy. I've had to work on some of these teeth to get them to punch out like that for, gosh, probably 15 or 20 minutes with that hammer chisel at that SDS. And you can see ones that I've replaced. These are factory rivets here, the ones that are real flat. You just can't get them to mushroom like that in all reality with the tools. You can see that one's been replaced, that one's been replaced, that one's been replaced, that one's been replaced, that one's been replaced. That's factory. So this is a factory tooth on a machine that has 1,200 hours and still going. So not near all of them have been replaced. A lot of factory teeth right here. Again, that one's been replaced, and now here we are back to where we started. Back to the tooth we're working on. So I'd say maybe half and half, half the teeth have been replaced, and that's a machine that has almost 1,200 hours on it. So like I say, it's not something that takes very much service at all. And I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of how this thing cuts currently, but anything that you've seen recently has been a very recent video. It's not like those are older videos that we filmed a long time ago when this blade was new or something. So, just to give you guys an idea of the life expectancy you get out of these. It's pretty remarkable. So. So that's all there is to it right there. Put this in. And then all we do is just get that tool and just mushroom that flat. And again, just hand tighten that to hold itself on there. Hand tighten that. It's on this side. And then I'll just get my socket. And again, it's that 15/16 socket, at least with this particular brand tool. All right, guys, that's what the end product looks like. And that tooth is not coming out. You know, and that's as good as you can really get it to look, at least with the tool that I have. But you know, that's never coming out, as you can see with all the ones that we've replaced that look exactly the same as that. You can see on this side it doesn't get quite as flush as the factory, but that doesn't affect the cut. That just goes right through it. You can see some of these right here that have been replaced, you know, and then that one's factory there. You see, I don't know if you can see that on camera, the difference, but that's what it looks like, and that's kind of the process. If I had more to do, I'd bring you along and show you, but that's all I'm gonna do right now. That's the only tooth that was completely missing. Like I say, this one's a little bit damaged, and I mean, they could all, you know, none of them are quite as sharp as that brand new one, but it still cuts great. And that's what's so amazing about these blades is, you know, how much life you get out of them and how well they cut. So appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll do the best to answer what I can, and you know, if you want to see anything different, let me know, and we'll see y'all on the next one.